All right, good morning. Now, you guys know, as well as you guys out there on YouTube, as long as with the church, we have not had church, or at least church preaching, for the last 2 weeks. I was actually in Seattle at a wedding 2 weeks ago, and then I was actually in Seattle last week driving to the port for one of our believers. Had to help one of those guys get all the way across the state of Washington. So anyway, actually, as you're watching this now, I should be driving in Seattle, or at least back from Seattle right now. So anyway, we're going to get started this morning. Over the last few weeks, we've been looking into Zion, Jerusalem, and their prophetic counterparts. And as you know, we've identified those as America, the Zion of Bible prophecy, and that would be the land of regathered Israel. Now, while we've studied these things, I know that you've noticed, as well as I have, that we've come across quite a few verses that mention Babylon as a result. As when we read about the daughter of Zion, the daughter of Jerusalem, we have read verses that are about Jerusalem and Zion having something to do with Babylon. And because of that, I've actually had some questions by you guys out here and people that are emailing me about Babylon and how it's related to end-time Israel. And for a few sermons or so, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be laying a foundation about a few things before we get to the heart of the matter as far as end-time Babylon, which is a very controversial subject when it comes to coming out of Babylon, which is what we're going to get to later. But a sermon on the leaving or coming out of Babylon is sorely needed in this day and age. So we're going to get to that. But anyway, this morning's sermon is going to touch on a few things to get us started. Now, I'm not going to get very deep into all of what the Bible has to say about Babylon until after the conference next month. So as you guys know, I'll be attending a conference in Arkansas, and I don't want my absence there to break up our study of Babylon or end-time Babylon. So we're not going to go very far into it today. We're going to touch on some things, and then after October, the first weekend of October, we're actually going to get into the nitty-gritty on what it is. So let's get started. Let's start in Isaiah chapter 13, verse 1. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah, the son of Amos, did see. So from here we can see that in Isaiah 13, it's going to be about Babylon. Of course, burden is, you see that in the King James, you could see that would be an utterance of doom. Okay, so this is what Isaiah is bringing to Babylon, which is an utterance of doom. Okay, and so that way, looking ahead in Isaiah 13, we'll see that it's actually a prophecy concerning the destruction of Babylon. All right, verse 6 through 9, Isaiah 13. Howl ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt, and they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed at one another. Their faces shall be as flames. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, both cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. All right, so here we see that upon the day of the Lord, there will be terrible destruction, which involves the destruction of Babylon, but it also involves the removal of the sinners. You see, that's very important, and that'll be the removal of the sinners out of the land. This will be the day of the Lord. Verse 10 and through 13 here. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. And you remember, these are things that we've studied before. Matthew 24, the words of Christ also mention these as end of the age language. And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. Therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger. So you see the symbolism, like I said, concerning the sun, moon, and stars. And whenever we see that, that is language concerning end of the age prophecies. Okay, and we have looked at that before. And to establish what we recognize that this language here establishes this as end-time prophecy. That's what I'm getting at. And also you see the word world here. Word world. In some Bibles, the margin rendering translates that to Babylonian Empire. Okay, so I will punish the Babylonian Empire for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity. And you see in the context of this verse that actually does make sense. So, what about this? So we see here we've got the sun, moon, and stars. We see that this is the end of the age prophecy concerning the day of the Lord. We've got the end time language here, and of course he's going to punish Babylon. So this is that utterance of doom that Amos is bringing. Then we have here a man, then the golden wedge of Ophir. So what is that about? Well, Ophir is actually a legendary location. Its exact location, it's mentioned in the Bible a few times, but its exact location has never been ascertained. All right, it's usually thought to be east of Israel's land here. Usually it's a seaport. It's a seaport either in India or the Philippines, so definitely east of Israel. And biblically, when Ophir is mentioned, it's a famous port, a port made famous for its wealth, particularly gold, silver, sandalwood, precious stones, and ivory. All right, and it's only mentioned a few times in the Bible. It is said that King Solomon received shipments of wealth from Ophir. So anyway, that's a legendary land from where wealth comes. Okay, so that's Ophir. Anyway, what's being said here then? Why is this mentioned here? Man or the souls or lives of men are to be held in a higher regard than gold at the time of Babylon's destruction. You see, and if you look over in Revelation 18, verses 11 and 13, we'll see the same thing. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, who? Mystery Babylon. So this is about the fall of Babylon over in Revelation 18. For no man buyeth their merchandise any more, the merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all fine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of precious wood, and of brass, and of iron, and of marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men. Of course, that word souls could also mean lives, the lives of men. So you see here, under the order of Babylon, before she fell, the order of Babylon, we're given here a list of things from most important, gold making the top of the list, of course, gold and silver. And then at the very bottom of the list, we see the souls or the lives of men. Okay, so when we read that in Isaiah, we saw that at the time of Babylon's destruction, this end time prophecy, this list here in Revelation will actually be turned upside down so that the souls or lives of men are more precious than gold. You see, so the current world order of Babylon will be turned upside down in the new kingdom order. And Isaiah was telling us that men's souls will take priority over gold, all right? And now we're going to look over another prophet concerning Babylon. We'll go to Jeremiah chapter 50. All right, Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 1. For context, I'll read you the first verse. The word that the Lord spake against Babylon and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. So we understand this is Jeremiah's ministry. And in this context, we see he's actually speaking out against Babylon, just as Isaiah was. And actually, Jeremiah chapters 49, 50, and 51 are prophecies concerning Babylon and its destruction. And you know, if you don't know, these prophecies in Jeremiah actually parallel the destruction of Babylon, those prophecies given in Revelation 18 and 19. The only difference is in Isaiah we find a little more detail. So a little more details given about it. So look at verses 4 and 5 now in Jeremiah 50. In those days and in that time, saith the Lord, the children of Israel shall come together, and they and the children of Judah together, going and weeping. They shall go and seek the Lord their God. They shall ask the way to Zion with their faces thitherward, saying, Come and let us join ourselves to the Lord in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. So, this is obviously end time prophecy. Now, how do we know this is actually end time prophecy? Yes. Okay. For those of you that didn't hear that, she said, because of the gathering and joining together of Israel and Judah. And of course, that's correct, but let's look a little closer at this verse. All right, so here we have regathered Israel, which any time that you see the gathering together again of Israel and Judah, we automatically know that this is latter-day Israel, or end-of-the-age prophecies, okay? And here we see they must be a Christian people, these regathered Israelites because they're seeking the Lord their God. Of course, you see they're going and they're weeping. They're going to go someplace as believers, right? And where are they going to go? To Zion, right? To Zion, which is the new land, where they'll do what? They're going to join themselves together they're going to join ourselves to the Lord in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. Okay, so this is not a prophecy then of the old captivity of the Judah kingdom by Babylon, because the people did not join to God at that day or in that age. They did not join to God in a perpetual covenant. Nor did they do this in the days before this prophecy was given, you see. So that's a clue as to establishing the time element of this verse. So we have the gathering together of the house of Israel and the house of Judah. They're going to go to a new land called Zion as believers, and then in that land, this prophetic Zion land, they will join themselves to the Lord in a perpetual covenant. And if you think back to the prototype of this, which is actually in the Old Testament, when we came out of Egypt, you see, we came out of that land going and weeping, just like here, because we were going to get married in the promised land, right? That's a prototype of this prophecy here. Okay, so we understand now that this cannot be a prophecy concerning the old Babylonian captivity. And if you actually take time to study the pilgrims and the forefathers in our very early American history, you'll find, if you read through the charters and the declarations that they themselves penned, you'll find that they actually bound their progeny and themselves to God. All right, so that would make it obvious that the forefathers who founded this country actually placed themselves and their children and their children's children in a perpetual covenant to God. All right, so that should make it obvious what the time element here is in these verses in Jeremiah, right? Okay, so very simply then, our takeaway is that Babylon's fall, the fall of this prophetic Babylon, takes place sometime after the days spoken of here. What days? The days of the regathering of the children of Israel, living in prophetic Zion. Okay, so after this occurs, then Babylon falls. All right, so that's what we're looking at here. Let's read on. Jeremiah 50, verse 23. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Okay, now, this is also indicative of the time element here as being end-time prophecy, because here we notice that ancient Babylon was not the hammer of the whole earth, or the entire earth, right? Also notice that when Babylon did fall in the Old Testament, it did not become a desolation among the nations. So this Babylon being spoken of here cannot be the old empire. It must be end-time prophecy concerning a future Babylon, you see, because this Babylon here was not the hammer of the entire earth, neither was it a desolation among the nations when it did fall, you see. So that's how you understand the time element here. So when I say it's obviously end-time prophecy, what I mean is I'm showing you how to identify it as we go along. We'll do this a lot in the book of Jeremiah. All right, so this is a future Babylon being spoken of here, okay? Let's look at verse 46. At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations. You see here again. So notice after here, the taking of, or the destruction of Babylon is noticed worldwide or globally. You see that? And of course, if you read other prophecies concerning this event, you'll find there's other language concerning this about the earth quaking or the earth being shaken or earthquakes. You'll find that. And now these are not literal earthquakes where it's literally the earth shaking. It's not, because this is prophecy. So the symbolism of this is the earth shaking is what? It's being disrupted. It's a disruption in the present world order, you see. And what's been disrupted? Babylon's order has been disrupted, which shakes the whole earth, because we understand it's a worldwide system of control, right? Okay, but we'll get to that here in a minute. All right, so actually, if you look at Revelation 16, It's another place you'll find this symbolic language of the earth shaking. All right, so Jeremiah 51, if you read through this, after this Jeremiah 50, you go right into Jeremiah 51, you'll find that it goes on to give an account of the fall of Babylon and how that will be heard among the nations. But who or what is this Babylon then? You see, this is the question, because a lot of people assume that when I say Babylon and we're in the Old Testament, they assume I'm talking about the old Babylonian Empire, the old Akkadian Empire, okay? But we have to identify who this Babylon is, and actually Jeremiah 51 helps us out because we're going to go right along into that. For context, I'll read verse 1 again. Jeremiah 51, verse 1, Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will raise up against Babylon, and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me, a destroying wind. So here's our context again, that God is speaking against Babylon. All right, now who is this Babylon? Verse 13, O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, thine end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness. Okay, so this is still speaking of Babylon. So who is this Babylon then, that dwells upon many waters and has abundant wealth or abundant treasures? Okay, all right, right. Revelation 17, verse 1, And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, and I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. All right, upon many waters, just like we read in Jeremiah. Verse 5, Revelation 17. And upon her forehead, who? The great whore upon many waters. Upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. All right, so the Babylon being spoken of in Jeremiah is a prophetic Babylon. And here it's named what? Mystery Babylon. All right, and of course the many waters that we saw, many waters is indicative of what? Many waters is world control, worldwide influence, right? Worldwide power or control. And we understand that is Mystery Babylon, an economic, military, political, and religious world power. And of course, the symbolism is that she sits upon many nations, or she controls many nations, all right? Now, if you continue reading all the way through in Jeremiah 51, you'll find prophecies that concern Babylon exactly fit the prophecies about Mystery Babylon given in Revelation 17 and 18. So just like I said, I've proven to you that this Babylon here that sits upon many waters is the same as Mystery Babylon in Revelation. It's the same city, all right? It's the same prophetic entity. And that's why we know that when you go through and you read Jeremiah 49, 50, and 51, they're actually parallel verses and parallel prophecies given in Revelation 17 and 18. You'll notice as we go along with this study today and in the future sermons that will be given, we'll be staying with the Old Testament, all right, particularly the prophet Jeremiah, as I'm seeking to, like I said earlier, establish a foundation. We won't be looking very deep into the book of Revelation per se, all right? We're going to leave Revelation alone for now. I just wanted to show you that the Mystery Babylon mentioned in Revelation is actually the Babylon that we'll be talking about and looking at in Jeremiah, all right? But we will get into Revelation later. All right. So I wanted to show you that the prophetic entities of Babylon in both Jeremiah and Revelation are the same, all the way down to their destruction. So we'll go to Jeremiah 51, verse 60 through 62 now. So Jeremiah wrote in a book all the evil that should come upon Babylon, even all these words that are written against Babylon. And Jeremiah said to Zechariah, When thou comest to Babylon, and shalt see, and shalt read all these words, then shalt thou say, O Lord, thou hast spoken against this place, to cut it off, that none shall remain in it, neither man nor beast, but that it shall be desolate forever. All right, we're still talking about Babylon and the end of Babylon. We'll look at verse 63 and 64 now. And it shall be, when thou hast made an end of the reading of this book, that thou shalt bind a stone to it, and cast it into the midst of the Euphrates. And thou shalt say, Thus shall Babylon sink, and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon her, and they shall be weary. Thus far are the words of Jeremiah. Okay, and this is how chapter 51 in Jeremiah closes. Apparently, the entire prophecy that Jeremiah was given about Babylon was to be read to all the people in Babylon before it was destroyed. You see that? Right there. So he's going to Zechariah and he's telling him, you will read everything that I've written about Babylon and her destruction. You're going to read that to the inhabitants of Babylon, which are Israelites in Judah under the Babylonian captivity, right? Okay, so you're going to read these words to those being held captive by Babylon. All right? Now that's the reason I'm preaching this sermon to you this morning. Because today, this has not been done. The vast majority of our people are not even aware of Babylon, are they? In fact, you are not going to read any of these prophecies, or you're not going to have them read to you from the modern church. Prophecies of what? Babylonian destruction. Why? Because people don't even know what to do with the word Babylon anymore. At least they don't even know that we're in Babylonian captivity. So Jeremiah sent this man Zechariah to read these prophecies to the people. So in other words, what I'm saying to you today is Babylon's destruction has been published, right? In the words of Jeremiah in this book, Jeremiah's whole chapter has been published to us concerning the destruction of Babylon. Now it's up to you and me, not just Pastor Reed, but all of you guys out there. It's up to us to read these to the people. To who? Well, Israelites under Babylonian captivity, right? All right, you see how this is a very confusing message to the modern church, right? We're going to go to another prophet now, Micah, and we did touch on these verses earlier, so we're going to go to Micah 4, verse 8. And thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion. The kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. Now we understand these are very familiar verses to most kingdom Christians, are they not? Especially to us, since we've been looking at these verses for the last few weeks. So, this is prophetic Zion and prophetic Jerusalem, all right? And we know that Micah 4 is also a parallel to Isaiah chapter 2. And we know that Micah 4 and Isaiah 2 contain prophecies about the establishing of the kingdom, okay? And here we see in the middle of these prophecies in Micah 4 that these end-time entities known as the daughter of Zion and the daughter of Jerusalem, they're what? Well, they would be given the authority to claim the kingdom of God on earth. Correct? Right? Okay. Micah 4, verse 10. Be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail, for now shalt thou go forth out of the city, and thou shalt dwell in the field, and thou shalt go even to Babylon. There shalt thou be delivered. There the Lord shall redeem thee from the hand of thine enemies. And this is the verse that I actually got the questions on, because I know what you guys know it means. But out there, we do have new kingdom believers, and they do ask questions about these, and that is a very good thing. And they're very good questions. They ask me, Pastor Reed, I understand who the daughter of Zion is, but I don't understand what you mean when you say she's going to dwell with Babylon. You see, and it's because of this verse that we've been touching on for the last few weeks when talking about the daughter of Jerusalem and the daughter of Zion. And of course, this is going to be very, very confusing to the modern church, like I said, because we've identified this daughter of Jerusalem, and we see that she's going to what? Dwell or go unto Babylon, right? Now, this is very confusing to modern Christians who's been taught they've been taught that the Jewish people are God's chosen people, right? And that Palestine is the Holy Land, or Zion, or prophetic Zion. So you can understand why they're getting their wires crossed about verses like this. Now, if it's true that God's chosen people are those Jews over there in Palestine, then that means that those guys over there are actually going to have to be conquered by the old city of the Babylonian Empire, then move to another land of their own, and then be converted to Christianity. And then, as Billy Graham says it, after they're converted to Christians in that land, they're going to evangelize the world, right? Yeah, that's what they say. Those claims just do not fit what Scripture says. You see here, This message is very confusing if you cannot understand or identify who God's people Israel are and where they are in the earth today. You see, that's why I'm here, because it's up to us to read the published destruction of Babylon to Israelites currently in captivity. So this is end time prophecy here, and I'll prove it. Zechariah chapter 2, verse 7. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon. The daughter of Babylon. So now we've got the daughter of Zion, we've got the daughter of Jerusalem, both prophetic entities, and now we have the daughter of Babylon. You see, this is where we're moving to. We're going to study this. The daughter of Babylon. In one verse, we have Zion dwelling with who? Daughter of Babylon. And immediately, we could recognize this as end-time prophecy because of that phrase right there. The daughter of Babylon is what then? Well, it's the prophetic term for mystery Babylon, just as daughter of Zion is symbolic of end-time regathered Israel, you see? So when we read daughter of either Babylon or Zion, we know, or Jerusalem, we know this is not the old mother. So this is the spiritual successor of that old empire, you see? All right. So here we see again, according to Zechariah, that Zion, of course, if we know the context of Zechariah 2, which I know we do, is end-time prophecy, we see that end-time Zion then is under the control of Babylon currently. And you can understand why that actually contrasts most modern teachings or idea, because we know this cannot be the literal old Zion, and it cannot be the literal old Babylon. You see? Let's look at Zechariah chapter 2, verses 8 through 10. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, after the glory hath he sent me unto the nations which spoiled you, for he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye. You who? Who's this you? Daughter of Zion, right? For behold, I will shake mine hand upon them, and they shall be a spoil to their servants, and ye shall know that the Lord of hosts hath sent me. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for lo, I come, and I will dwell in the midst of thee, saith the Lord. So we know this is end-time prophecy once again. And we also know that there is only one nation in the earth today whom these prophecies can apply, and that's the Israelite people of Christian America. Because God lives with us. He's among us, is he not? And yet, we find ourselves under the captivity of Babylon. And over again, we as God's people are promised, as we read through his book, that at the end of the age, we will be delivered from that Babylonian captivity by God with great and mighty works, right? So that's what we're going to get to today, is I wanted to show you that when we read about Babylon, we start reading about Babylon in the old prophets, you're going to come across dual prophecies in Isaiah, Jeremiah, major and minor prophets, all throughout the Old Testament. You're going to find that we will have to identify these prophecies as we come upon them as current prophecies that have been fulfilled, or future prophecies yet to be fulfilled, or both. So it will be confusing unless I show you each and every time how we find out the time element of end-time prophecy. Okay, and it's not a very difficult thing, but it's more and more questions I get about it, because I know you guys out there, especially you guys sitting out here right now, you are experts on verses like this. You guys can all do my job, can you not? No. Oh, you can? Okay. Well, I tell you what, next week you're come up here and exposition some of these with me, all right? I have some volunteers, I see. So, when we get on to our study in Babylon, like I said, we're not going to go very deep today, because that's actually all we have for today. But we're going to see, we have to identify these as end-time prophecies, end-time Israel, regathered in the land of Zion, the New Jerusalem, which we've done for weeks. We understand that, we've solidified that, it's a good foundation. Now we have to find out and identify this Babylon, this daughter of Babylon, this mystery Babylon, and what it means to us, the regathered people of Israel in America Zion, right? That's our mission, that's what we're looking at. And we're going to stop there today because next week we're actually going to go back through Jeremiah in great detail to solidify in our minds what his ministry was and how it fits our ministry and our mission today to God and to his nation Israel at the end of this age. So next week we're going to dive deep into Jeremiah. We're going to start looking at his ministry and what it is he spoke against Babylon and what it is the people of his day did about it. And that's where we're going to stop today.